Hi, my name is Matthew Bellisario. Thanks for coming by the Bellisario Sonic YouTube channel. I'm coming to you from the heart of the Deep South on the outskirts of Birmingham, Alabama, where we're talking about music, records, doing record reviews, interviews, and more, doing extraordinary record reviews for you extraordinary listeners out there. Today I've got a special video for you guys. This is something I think all record collectors are going to be interested in. I've never really done a video like this before, so bear with me. I don't know how this is going to come out. I did a video last year about a brief video explaining how I built a record shelf for under $200 that would hold like 600-700 records. And I'm building another shelf today for this bar area here. And I wanted to record the building of this shelf so that you guys could actually see how I put it together, how it's built. And this would be something I think that all of you record collectors will be interested in, because we always run out of room. We always want to know how we can build more shelf space for records. I think this is one of the best ways to do it, one of the most cost-effective ways to do it, and one of the best builds you can do for the money, because these are heavy-duty stair treads I'm going to make this shelf out of. And I'm going to do this one a little bit different because I'm going to add another shelf into this. So let me go ahead and flip over to this camera. This is going to be, again, a little bit of a different kind of video. So let me turn over here to this other camera. And I'm sitting down here on the floor because I've got all my floor treads down here. What I'm going to do is build a 4-foot by 4-foot shelf out of stair treads. And I'm going to show you exactly how to put this together, how quick you can do it. I'm going to leave mine unfinished because all my shelves in this room are unfinished, so this is going to be very similar. I've got a larger piece of plywood to make the top out of because I wanted the top to be a little bit bigger so that I can have more room for display and other things on the top of the shelf. So rather than having these 4-foot by 12 stair treads here, I'm going to put a larger top on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and explain to you how this is going to be done. I'm going to put my phone down here and so I can see what I'm doing. With the camera angles, I've got 3 different cameras. I've got this camera angle here looking up at you. I've got this camera angle here where I'm over on this side looking up at you. And then I've got a third camera here that I'm able to move around here. So I'm going to take you into some different shots here as I put this together and show you the specifics on how you can build this. So, all right, let me go back over here. I've got my stair treads laid out. I bought 4, 5, 6, 7 stair treads. And the reason that is I'm going to have 2 sides, 4 foot high. I'm going to have a bottom, which is going to be a stair tread. And then I'm going to have 2 shelves. Actually, on this build, I'm going to do 3 shelves because I'm going to have a small 5-inch shelf at the top. And then I'm going to have a top on it. So what I've got is 7 stair treads. The center support system that goes in the middle are the only cuts you have to make on this whole project. So what you need is a tape measure. You need either a table saw or a chop saw to make the cuts for the center pieces. And you'll see how this comes together as I go. But this is a really cool way to build shelves. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get my sides ready. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand these up. The nice thing about doing these, you can pretty much build these in your house. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to lay these on a flat surface here so these will stand up straight. So if you look here, you have stair treads with the round fronts and the flat backs. Now what's really nice about this is I can stand these up and build my sides. So what I do is I'm going to take these. I'm going to take these and stand these up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw the bottom on first. So what I'm going to do is you need a screw gun for this at minimum. I'm using a screw gun and a drill. So What I have here is an impact driver. The screws that I purchased, I recommend getting these kind of screws. And so these are the ones with the little star shapes in them that comes with the actual bit. And these are the easiest to use to drive these in. But what I do recommend doing is drilling a pilot hole for each of these screw holes that you're going to put in. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this on the inside. So the way I want to do this, I want to get these flat on the floor, and then what I'm going to do, I need a little bit more room here. Stand these up. Give me a little bit more room, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, this will be the bottom of the shelf. It's going to go on the inside of the two sides. So what I'm doing here, if you can see, let me pull out my other camera here. Again, this is a little bit something I haven't done before, is I'm going to build a box here on the floor. So I'm going to screw this in, make sure these are flush. I'm going to screw this bottom in straight. That will be my bottom of the shelf. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure off my shelves. I'm going to do them 13 inches apart, so there'll be plenty of room to put the records in. I'm going to do a 13-inch shelf, a 13-inch shelf, and then the third shelf is also going to be 13 inches, and that's going to leave me about 5 or 6 inches at the top for a small shelf. So let me go back over here. So I'll give you a little bit of a different view. Again, bear with me. Leave your comments. Let me know what you think of this. I'm going to put those up against the wall, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this is flush, and I'm going to drill pilot holes. So this is pretty easy. What I like to do is just do 2 pilot holes, put my screws in, and then I'll put 2 more screws in. So what I like to do is do, it makes a little bit of a mess, but it's not bad. You can just vacuum this up very easily. I like to build it here in the house. It's just easier, and this is actually quite heavy. So let me lay this down so I can see, make sure you guys can see what I'm doing. Let me go over to here. So I drill the pilot hole. Again, I like these outdoor screws to these are actually 2.5-inch screws, so they go in far. You want something that's going to really be long enough to give you some good support. So again, I'm flat on the floor. This gives me a perfect 90-degree angle when I'm screwing these in. And so what I'm going to do now is drill my second pilot hole. And the reason why you want pilot holes, you just don't want to split the wood. And again, this is a project that anybody can do. So there we go. We got the one bottom end nice and flush at the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing over on this side. And room is kind of a problem sometimes here. So let me slide this over a little bit. And again, you want to make sure that these are flush, these corners. And as long as you keep them flat on the floor and you make sure that your bottom is flush here, and when you drill your pilot hole, everything will stay like it's supposed to stay. All right. So bring these over here. And once I get the bottom on, it's going to make everything else a little bit easier to do the rest of it. Okay, make sure flush up here. Drill my pilot hole. I'll get my screw. Okay, so that's nice and flush. Let's see if you can see what I'm doing here. So if you look here, see how nice and flush this is? Make sure that's nice and flush. And then go back over here. Same thing with the bottom. You're gonna just make sure that you're pushing on this, making sure that it's flush, flat. When you drill that pilot hole, everything is nice and straight. It'll take a little bit of pressure sometimes to make sure that the bottom is flush, and you really have to make sure that that's how it is. So if you need to, you can also stand it up and do it. So that's probably what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to stand this up. I'm going to make sure that the top of this is flush when I drill this hole. So I don't know if you can see that or not. It's kind of hard directing this and doing this all at the same time. So let me see here. All right, so what I'm going to do here, get my screw ready. And here you can see you're going to have to push on this a little bit in order to make sure that this is flush. And again, the great thing about this is it requires very little cutting. You don't have to do a lot of cutting with this. The only thing you have to end up cutting is the support, center supports. So okay, so that's nice and flush here. Perfect. That's my bottom of my shelf. Now what I can do is lay this back on the floor. And this will allow me to go ahead. And what I'm going to end up doing is going back and shoring all these up with more screws. I'm going to end up putting 2 more screws where these go. So there'll be 4 screws holding all the parts together. Now I'm going to put in my first shelf. So what I'm going to do is measure. I want 13 inches space, which will give me plenty of room for any albums. So what I'm going to do is take this and lay this in here. And then I'm going to measure 13 inches with my tape measure. Where's my tape measure at? This is always the joy of putting this stuff together. All right. Hopefully you won't hear me curse or anything here while I get upset about not being able to find my tools and so forth. So you can use a pen or you can use a pencil, whatever you want to mark your 13 inches here from the bottom. So what I usually do is just come up, and what I want is 13-inch between the shelves. So make sure you measure from the top of your shelf. You're going to go 13 inches, and that's where the bottom of the next shelf is going to be, right? So what I like to do is just put a small mark there and mark that right on the 13-inch mark. Okay. So that's going to be the bottom of my shelf, right on the 13-inch mark. So this is flat on the floor again. So what I'll do is I'm going to drill a hole, drill it in. I'm going to go on the other side, mark 13 inches. I'm going to drill the screw in for there. And then what I'm going to do is stand it up and use a level to make sure that the shelf is going to be flat. Because yeah, I could just leave it flat on the floor. It's probably going to be really close. I could do that because the floor is flat, the back of the board's flat. I could just screw it in like that. It's going to be really close. It'd probably be fine. But it's nice to use a level to level it up. So let me go ahead and make sure. You always want to measure twice, drill once. Okay, here's my first screw. This will be my first shelf. All right, so that's nice and tight. This is flush, of course, because we're on the floor and I'm on a flat floor, so no problems there. You want to go over here, measure your 13 inches and mark that. And you want to be just really precise with this. Make sure you mark it right on the mark. Okay, I'm going to bring this up, drill this side, and this is going to make my shelf from side to side perfectly level. And again, makes a little bit of a mess, but it's not terrible. We'll just get the vacuum cleaner and vacuum this up. Again, getting these star-headed screws. These are outdoor screws. So there's my shelf. So, I mean, I could stand it up and level it, or I may just go ahead and do this like it is and then go back. What I'm going to do here, double check my 13 inches there, 13 inches there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just drill this and put these screws in on the bottom. If I have to, I can go back and level it up. I'm going to trust that the floor, that this is nice and flat on the floor and flush. And let's look down here, make sure I'm going straight into the board, because you don't want to miss it. You'll feel you'll go into the stair tread once you get through the other side. And then I'm going to go back and again put more screws in. When it's all put together, I'll go back and put more screws in this to make it stronger. It's pretty much these screws are all that's really holding this together. So, all right. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. Again, I've never done a video like this, so bear with me. I don't have anybody here to help me to do cameras or anything, so of course I need more screws. So this whole thing Costs $155. That includes 2 boxes of screws. I'll have more screws left over. I bought 2 boxes. They were $10 a box. You get about 75 screws per box. It's probably going to take a whole box or close to a box to do the whole thing. All right, so there's my first. There's my first shelf, 13 inches apart, and so my records are going to fit in there with nice amount of room there for that one. Okay, so I got plenty of room for my shelves. I'm going to go ahead and do another 13-inch measurement with the shelf, and then I'm going to do another shelf above it, which will give me like a small CD shelf or bookshelf or whatever I want to put things in. So let's bring this other board in here. We're going to do the exact same thing. So let me think here. If I do 13 and I do another 13, how much room is that going to leave me? Okay. So let's just do this the exact same way. There are stickers on the boards. It's probably a good idea to take the stickers off first because I'm going to have to go back. If they're easily seen, I'm going to have to scrape off, wet them and scrape off the stickers. So you could choose how to do that, however you see fit. So let me take you to this cam real quick and let's take a look. All right, so what we have now, as you can see, 13-inch shelf here. And I'm getting ready to do this next 13-inch shelf here. Before we go, you can see from that side. And let's go ahead and mark this. Again, 13-inch gap between, so I'm going to measure off the top of this shelf. And I'm going to mark this at 13 inches. And I just put enough of a mark there to see it. This pen's not writing so good, but it leaves an indentation. So I can see exactly where that 13 inches is. And I can go right up here and drill my hole. Screws, 2 1/4 inch screws. I got those tan ones so that they're not easily seen, especially with the natural finish. Now if you're gonna stain it or paint it, you can do what you want with it there, but I'm leaving mine natural finish. And so what I'm doing here is I'm building a shelf that's going to, this 2026 is going to be a year of cataloging. And so the easiest way for me to catalog is going to be to build a new shelf in here, and I'm going to bring new records in here and alphabetize them, and this is going to be my jazz, or half of my jazz collection or so. But I'll be able to have room to move things around and to catalog. So we're always looking for extra room, right? All right. So I got this marked at 13. Make sure I'm on center as I can be. And you can feel that go through. Get your screw on there. This is actually kind of a fun project. It's not too terribly complicated. If you're building it on a flat floor like this, it's pretty easy to do. Okay, so looks like that's flat. It's up against the floor. I'm going to go ahead and drill my pilot hole here. Again, if you want to, you could stand this up. You could use a level. I don't really think I need to with this because of the way that these are against the floor flush. It's going to be pretty level. It's not going to, if it's off, it's going to be a very, very tiny bit. It's not going to be anything where you're going to be able to notice. I think I went off center there. This is where you're going to hear me curse. Where is that? Oh, it didn't go all the way through. Damn it. So, yeah. Now I got to get that damn thing back out of there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up higher, drill another hole, secure that in, and then I'll worry about getting that other screw out. My eagle eye didn't barely caught the edge, so that screw is not in there good. And lesson learned. Now that one's in, so I'm gonna have to go back and get that other stinking screw out later. All right. Always something happens, always. Something always happens. Something always goes wrong, but it's not a big deal. We can get it out later. So I'm going to go ahead, make sure I eagle eye this better on this one. Let's see if I can straight down. I could probably stand this up, would be that's in there good. I don't know why I didn't see that that other one didn't hit right. Okay. All right, so there's my second shelf. Now I'm going to do one more. And this one, let me see which one I want to use. Staple in that one. I have to get a pair of pliers and get the staple out. So let me do that, and then we'll go ahead and do this last two boards, and then we got to do the center supports. So far we've got two shelves in here. We're going to put the third shelf in. It's going to give us 13 more inches for three shelves of records. And then the top will go on, and that will give me like a 5 or so inch shelf at the very top, which I haven't done that before. The last time I built one of these, I just did 3 equidistant shelves and it worked out fine. But this time I wanted to do it a little bit different, and I wanted to have the bigger top on this. So I'll show you that here. So stand by, let me go grab some needle nose pliers so I can pull the staple out of the end of this board so it'll fit in flush. Appreciate you guys hanging out. I know this is probably an odd video. It's probably not the best to watch or easiest to watch because I've got nobody to switch the cameras for me. But there's the staple I just pulled out. Out of the end of the board. And then what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put this in here. And that's going together nice and tight. And I'm going to do 13 inches again. And then whatever's left, there's going to be a small kind of a pocket here, okay? And that pocket is going to be for, you know, I can put books in there or CDs or whatever I want in that top kind of a small pocket shelf rather than wasting the space. So that was just kind of something I thought about doing with this build, because I thought that, you know, there's some wasted space that I didn't like having. And I can't find the stinking pen to mark mine. Here it is, blended in with the carpet. So, all right, let's mark this 13 inches gap. Okay, so it's going to be less than what I thought for the 13 inches. All right, so let me mark this. Hopefully you can see. I'm gonna push this back a little bit. Let's mark this 13 inches from that shelf. And okay. So let me get this lined up again. Get my drill. That other screw is going to be a pain to get out. Have to get a way to get some pressure on it. All right, let's see. 13 inches. There's my mark. Make sure I'm right on that mark. I always measure twice. Drill once. Into that one. Where are my screws? Gosh, I hate that. Oh. All right, let's get this in there. Okay, make sure I measure this. It is 13. And we're gonna come over here and get this 13 inches in there. Okay, let me move these over. Stinking pen. All right. 13 inches. Bottom. Again, make sure you're right on that thing. Okay. Okay, we're on there. Go ahead and get my screw, my hole drilled. Again, it's easier to see the top one you're doing than it is when you go to the bottom one, to make sure that you're in the center of the board with the screw. So, all right. So there we are. Got that flat. I'll look straight down this board. And I might not go down as far on this one. I might go to the center, because that's all I really need to hold it, and I can put the rest of my screws in later. Okay. There's always going to be a couple of dammits on these projects, unfortunately. All right, going over here now. Put one more in here. Put it right in the center on this one. Make sure I'm straight in the center. awfully easy. It looks like it went in. All right. All right, that's it. All right, so now what we're going to do is stand this up. So let me lift this camera up a little bit. Let's see what we got. Where's my phone? Again, I apologize for the camera work, but it's the best I can do. All right, so let's go ahead and stand this guy up. Hopefully all my shelves are straight, which they should be. That looks really nice. So there is the shelf coming together. As you can see, here's your other view. Now I'm going to put the top on. Then I can go back and put my center supports in. That's where your cutting comes in. That's where you're going to have to make sure that they're snug and they're tight when you put the center pieces in, which will be made out of stair treads. You got to measure those, and those are going to go right down the center to give these supports so they don't sag when you put all that weight on them, okay? All right, so what I want to do, I bought a piece of 4-foot plywood. It's going to set, it's going to be on the inside like this. So, let's see how this is going to work. I may have to lay this back down to put this on actually. Or put it upside down and put the, that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this upside down, stand this on the floor, lay my board on the floor in between, measure, and then I'll put my screws in, and that will put the top in, okay? So that's what I'm going to do here. So this thing is quite heavy for what it is. I mean, but that's the beauty of it, is that you've got a nice stable shelf for your records. You don't want chintzy little those little crappy little squares you buy that, you know, fall apart. This thing ain't falling apart. This thing will be with you until you die. You can pass this on to your children. All right, so now I'm going to stand it up on the bottom, on the top actually. This is going to be the top. It's on the floor. And what I'm going to do, since I've got a nice level here, where's my stinking phone? I've got a level spot on the floor here. So let me aim this other camera down so you can see better. Okay, so I'm going to go over to this camera and kind of give you a look at what I'm going to do here. So what I want to do, this is going to be my top. And I want the kind of the ugly side of it to be down, right? So that when I look at the top of it, the wood, the nice part is facing up. So this is a tiny bit shorter. There might be a little bit of a gap here. I don't like that. Let's see. I got to decide how much of an overhang I want on the front and the back. And it doesn't really matter as long as it's flush. So, man, I really don't like this gap. I didn't think about that this thing wasn't going to be the same length as those treads. And it's very small, but I don't want it to look like crap on the top. So I think I'm going to abandon my wider top, and I'm going to go grab another stair tread. I bought extra stair tread. You always want to have extras. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and screw in the stair tread and make it the same size, the top the same size. And I'm just going to save this board here. This is like 14 bucks. I'm going to save this board for another project. I always come up with different projects. So just got to be flexible with these kind of things. So I'm going to go out and grab my spare stair tread and to put my top in. which will fit more snug in there. So I will be right back. Let me grab that and we'll continue on. It kind of ticks me off and foiled my plan. But, you know, that's how it goes sometimes, I guess. So what I'm going to do, lay this on. Yeah, look how much nicer that fits in, how snug that is. So, lesson learned there. And now I got to make sure I'm putting this in the right way. So I think what I'm going to do is lay this back down. And I'm gonna put it on like I did the other one. All right, so let's lay this back down one more time, and I'm gonna put the top on. Again, I'm gonna put kind of the frumpy side down because you're not going to see it when it's in there. So the side that's got the worst it's got the worst side on it put down. You'll never see it. Okay. All right, so here this is going to be pretty easy as far as drilling this. This is going to have to be flush. Where are my screws at? Hopefully you can. So basically I've got, what do I have here? How big of a gap I've got? About 4 inches I've got. So we'll see if it's big enough to put CDs in there that I could stand up, or you know, just lay books in there, or whatever you want. Just gives you a little nook cubby thing there. All right. So here, pretty simple. Get this board flush with your fingers with the top. Again, you're going to see this, so be careful on how you drill this and make sure that it is flush with your finger. Again, you can build this out in your garage or whatever. Nice and flush to the feel. Now I'm going to go over on that side, and I'm going to do the exact same thing, and then we'll do the other end. Okay. Same deal here. Make sure that this is flush with your finger. Okay. Hold that. Nice and flush. And now I'm going to stand it up, and I'll make sure I get the other part flush, so the top is flush. And again, this thing's getting heavy. So when you go to pick this freaking thing up, which is why I like to put it together in the house, because you have to get a couple people to help you freaking carry this freaking thing. For me, I want to be able to do it myself. All right, so where are we? Let me get you over here on this. Again, I apologize for the poor camera work. It's hard to do this by yourself, but I thought it might be useful to you guys just to see it put together. You can fast forward through this if you want, just to kind of see how it goes together. So what I'm going to do now, again, this is going to be flush with your fingers. You're going to drill your hole and put these in, and then the last thing we have to do is do all the center pieces, and those are probably the most complicated because they have to be done precise, and they have to be tight because you're going to be screwing them from the top. I'm going to show you, and from the bottom. Okay, that's nice and flush. That kind of flushed this over here. I'm going to have to push this down just a little bit over here. So this will have to be pushed down just a little bit because of the way it's, but it'll pull together nicely. So what I'm going to do is push this down so it's flush to the fingers. Okay, it's going to spring back up a little bit there. Get this thing started and push this down so it's level. And there she goes, nice, tight, and flush. All right, so we have our box made, our shelves are in, everything looks nice. Now we got to put our centerpieces in. So I have a stair tread that's dedicated just for the centerpieces. So now what I'm going to do, I like to do the centerpieces from the front so that you do it from the front or from the back. But when you're doing these, you want to be able to, I'm going to start at the bottom. And what I'm going to do, you could do this laying down too. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lay this back down because it'll just be easier to do with it laying on the floor. So you got it. Then again, when I'm done, I'll just vacuum up and dust up and clean everything off. But what you're going to have to do with this is once I get this back down, one more time, and I have to lift it back up. It's just going to make it easier. So this thing is pretty sturdy. I mean, you can see it. It's not going to tip over. And once it's got records on it, you're not going to have to worry about this thing tipping over. If you wanted to, you could get some L brackets and screw into your wall to hold it against the wall if you wanted to do that with some anchors. But I have not had an issue with it. So that's up to you how you want to do that. If you think it's, I think it's very stable. I don't think it's going to fall. All right, let me get this other camera back down here. All right. So we're going back over to this cam. Now I'm going to do is measure this. And I do one at a time because once I screw that thing in there, it might pull the board tight. When I screw that centerpiece in, it might change the distance just slightly, and you want these tight. You really want these to be tight. So, this is going to be 24 inches. Should be would be the center. So, what I'm going to do is just measure this. Should be 13 inches, right? But since the board's got just a slight bow, looks like it's very close. So I'm going to cut it 13, straight on 13. It's very close. And what that means is I'm going to cut a 13-inch piece of stair tread. I'm going to put it in. I'm going to screw it from the bottom, and I'm going to screw it from the top. That's going to anchor that in there. Then when I cut the next one will come in from the top, and I can put another screw coming this way if I want. No, I won't be able to, because there'll be a. So yeah, what I did last time, I screwed top and bottom for this centerpiece. This piece I'm going to screw from the top of this shelf down. That's why it has to be snug. You really want that thing to be snug in there. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the top two. So I'm going to go outside, cut my piece, and put this centerpiece in there, and then I'll stop the video. So because the rest of it's going to be pretty much the same way. So maybe I'll do this piece and this piece, just because I know this video is going to get long. But you know, you could put this together in about an hour yourself. So let me go outside and cut my 13-inch piece of stair tread. I have a chop saw out there. Makes it really easy. It cuts a nice straight cut. You can also use a table saw if you want, but these are the only cuts you have to do for this entire project are these center pieces. So I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3. I don't really have to do this top one, but I don't know. I may do one for the top, this little top cubby, or not. For the top piece, really, but you know, it might be a good idea just in case you want to stack heavy stuff on the top. So I'll probably do it all the way down. All right, so I will be back in just a moment. And let me go cut this 13-inch stair tread. All right. Appreciate you guys hanging out. It's a lot of fun to do. All right, so I made my 13-inch cut. Hopefully you can see here. And there she is. She fits in there nice, snug. These are going to pull it together when I put my screws in. And that's going to be a nice, snug fit. So let's see, make sure you can see here. Let's put this down here, this other camera, so you can see. All right, so this is going to be 24 inches on center. So this is 48-inch long here in the center, 24 inches straight down the middle, and then you're just going to line them up from then on out. So once you're on it, that's it. I really want to get the bottom. That's not on there. Bastard. All right. So what I'm going to do is mark this with my pen. Make sure that I got that lined up when I drill my hole. And then we'll do that. Sometimes you got to ad lib when you're doing these things. All right, that's right on. All right. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I'm gonna sit here. and keep this down firm flat, and then I'm gonna drill my hole. Again, this is the bottom. Okay. Let me grab my screws. Oh, I always forget. Leave them away. Screw gun. Always looking for stinking tools. All right. Feel free to leave your comments if you got any ideas. But I think this is probably the most cost-effective solution for a nice record shelf. There we go. All right, so that should be nice and firm. And then what I'm going to do is measure. Make sure this is 24, make sure this thing didn't move, which it did. You can see it moved a little bit. So I'm gonna have to kind of pull it a little bit. So let me measure this. It's not perfectly. You would think it would be, but it's not. There's my mark, that's the center. So I'm just got to pull this. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I think you can. So you pull this like this, make sure you're straight, you're flush. Just the way it pulled it there, it's not quite, if it's not perfectly flat, when it pulls it like that, it's just a little off. So you just have to make sure to put some pressure on this and drill my hole. So there is center. Looking straight down on that. There's my hole into that. My screw. See how I pull that in tight? And that's why you don't want to. That's why you do not want to measure these all at one time and cut them. You want to do one cut, snug it in, do another cut, snug it in, do another cut until you're done, because it will change it that much. And if it changes it just a little bit, you're gonna have a gap, or it's gonna pull something weird. So now this should be 13. Let's see if it is 13. Yep. So we're 13 again. It looks like it's a little bit bowed, a little bit less than 13, but I'm going to cut it 13 and force it in. The board could be bowed down just a little bit, so it'll snug that up in there, and that'll be really nice. So I'm going to go cut another 13. Now, I will go back when I stand this, when I get this, I want to get this, make sure that this is flat. I'm going to put my other screws in here, and then I'll stand it up. When I put I'm going to put just 2 screws on the bottom. So actually, I can go ahead and do that now. Sure that's it's flat. Okay. So I'm going to go down here. Make sure I eagle eye this right. Close your eye. Make sure I'm on this board. I'm in there. I don't see my drill head or coming. The drill coming through. Make sure that's nice and flush. It's countersunk in there so it's not scraping your floor. Make sure that those screws are countersunk in there. Okay, so they're not scratching your floor up. You can also put pads on the bottom of this if you want. That wouldn't be a bad idea. I think I've got some rubber pads. I might actually use that and put on the bottom of this so it doesn't scratch the floor, even though it's not really going to move much once it's up against there. But that's something that you can think about doing. Let me go ahead and get this other screw in here. From the top. Make sure I'm looking straight down on this. And get this thing in there. Now this is the only one that's going to have it from both sides, obviously, because what you have to work with. But I'll show you. All right, so let me go cut my other 13. Let me measure this one more time. That is right, just right at 13, maybe just a little less. We'll go cut it. I'll be back. I'll keep you on and I'll keep doing this till I'm done. So let me flip over to this. You can get a little bit different angle while I go out, and this will give you kind of so what I'm going to do now is cut the 13. Put it in, and then I'm going to screw from the top. And this is critical that this is tight, because that's why I say cut it so it's snug when it slides in. So when you screw this from the top, it doesn't move. And the same thing, this is going to be, I didn't think about this because putting this brace in, I didn't think about that. I probably shouldn't have put this top in until I put that brace in. Damn it. Son of a bitch. That's okay. What I'll do is I'm going to have to take this top back off so that I can screw in from the top to put that piece in. And then put this back in and then put my piece in here and drill it from the top. So that's okay. That's just sometimes that shit happens. All right, let me go cut this one. Should have waited to put the top on. All right, got my 13-inch next piece, support piece. No more measuring now for these. It's all eye. Make sure that it lines up by the eye, because that's what you're going to see. So you see how nice and snug this goes in? That's what I want. Beautiful. And you make sure that thing is straight on there. And the only time I want to make sure, because I can't screw from there, I got to screw from here. So here I want to make sure that I am on. So I lied, I guess. Got to get this straight on and make sure that that stays level with that. It's got to look straight. You stand it up. All right, so there we are, straight on the money. So what I'm going to do here is put my 2 screws in from the top here. And that's what's going to hold that center piece. And again, the weight of everything on these, it's not going to go anywhere, and it's going to support your shelf. And it's going to be plenty sturdy. All right, managed to not. Okay, there's my screw hole. Nice and tight. I'm going to put another one in and make sure this thing is straight. looking straight down on it. Put one more screw in, and then I have to take this top off to do the rest. I didn't think about that because the last time I built this, I didn't have this little shelf in here, so I didn't think about having to drill in from the top, which I have no room to do if I don't take that top off. So let me eagle eye this again. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Leave your comments. I'm sorry for the poor camera work, but it's hard for me to see what I'm doing and film at the same time. So, okay. So now I have to take the top off. What do we got here? Oh, that kind of sucks. It's kind of got a chip in it. Yeah, I guess it's going to be rustic looking. Oh, dang it. It's always something, man. Always something that freaking ticks me off. Okay, so I'm going to pull these back out. These will go right back in easy. It's only 4 screws, so I'm going to take these out. I'm going to take these 2 out, so I'll take my top off, then I'll be able to get my final support in there. But again, if you're not going to make this little cubby hole at the top, you won't have to worry about it because you're just going to have 3 supports instead of 4. Like I'm doing. I just kind of did this on the spur of the moment. When I was in the store, I thought about it, and I was like, I can put a little cubby hole there at the top. And so now what I'm going to do is measure for this last center piece, which should be 13 inches. Let's see what she looks like. Right at 13 again. It's going to be a tight fit. So let me go cut this one. We'll put this one in, screw it from the top. Again, with the weight of the records and everything, and this is tight and it's screwed in, it's all going to hold together beautifully. And then I'll make one last support cut for the very, very top. And once I put this back on, we'll measure that, and I'll screw that in from the top. And we'll have a little support space for that the top of the shelf. In case you want to put any heavy stuff on it, it won't sag. That's the whole reason I'm doing these center pieces. All right, so let me go cut a 13-inch center piece. All right, I got my other 13-inch piece, and we are getting close to finishing this. Again, if you want to paint this or stain it or whatever, you can do that. Let's see how we are. Yeah, nice and tight. Nice. So, I'm going to line that up. I'm going to do my 24 on center. That's right on. Okay. Get my drill. And then it's got just a little bit of a gap. But again, once I put some weight on there, and what I'll do is I'll make sure when I put that, the piece in there, that it's really tight. It really pushes in on that. So let me make sure. Oh, I'm not in that one. What the hell happened there? It's flat. I just freaking missed it. Bastard. There we are. So now that's in there, that's straight. And then what I'm gonna do now is put my cap back on the top. So I'm gonna get that back in there. Screw holes should line right back up, so it shouldn't be a problem. Put those back in, and then the key piece, the last key piece is this little support piece in there. It's gonna go in, and that's gonna nice, so that lined right up. Let's put this one piece back in. In there. Again, I'm going to have to press down a little bit to get that other one in. Bastard. Come on. Always got to be something, man. That's all right. I can stand this bastard up. Finish this freaking thing. So you can see where the frustration does mount in sometimes, and you start getting upset because the top's not on. All right. Hopefully you guys are entertained by this. You know, let's go over to this cam. The hell is my phone? All right, so I'm gonna put this back in here. That's what happens when you don't think everything through. There you go, so that's all nice and flush. We put the last one in over here. And we got one more. One more support piece, and then when I'm done, I'm going to go back and put more screws in on all the shelves on all the sides and really pull everything tight. So I've got one more stinking cross piece to do, and that's the top one. I want this one to be really tight. So I want this to really be hard to press in. So let me measure here. It looks like right at 4 inches. So, yeah, I mean, it's flat, it's straight, right at 4 inches. Could be just a little touch on, a little touch longer than the 4 inches, and it's going to fit in really snug. That's what I want. Then I'll screw it from the top, and it's going to push everything, you know. All right, let me go cut that 4 inches. I will return for the end, promise. All right, so I cut this a little long. I'm gonna have to go back and trim it. I wanted to make sure that this does fit in flush. So let's see. Yeah. Let's see. I want this thing to fit in flush. There we go. Nice. So, let me look at this thing. Make sure this is, yeah, this is pretty full. I mean, it's pretty tight in there, which is what I want. Come on. These are all pretty straight. So, there we go. All right, so this back's pretty straight. I'm going to drill it from the top, and then put one in the back, one in the front, and then we'll have the shelf done. So I'm going to go straight down into this. Again, using these 2 1/4 inch screws is perfect. They're long enough when they go through, and they really, you know, give you a good support. And we'll do one more from the front. Again, kind of eyeing this because you just want it to look good from the front. So that's nice and straight. She is nice and tight, and there it is. There is the shelf. Let's take a look at it. The only thing, this is not quite as tight as what I wanted, but again, once I put the records on there, it's not going to be an issue because the weight of the records is immense. It's going to pull everything down, but let's pull this back and have a look. You guys take a look at it. All right. So there is, there's the shelf. Let me switch over to this camera. How about that? So there's the shelf. So I've got, again, if you want to make these equidistant 3 shelves, you can do that. I just wanted to kind of experiment and add this little shelf in here that I can put books or whatever, CDs or what have you. You know, if I want to put something on top here, I can do that. You've got supports all the way down that keep all that weight from bowing these. And now I'm going to just go back and I'm going to put screws in on the sides, put extra screws in for the shelves to give them more support. And away we go. We've got a brand new record shelf for $155, including screws. And however long it took me to put this thing together here. I've done everything, no edits on here. So that is how you make $155 record shelf in however long this video is, which probably an hour and a half or so. And if I hadn't have done this this little shelf in here, it would have been done a lot quicker. It would have saved me probably, what, 20 minutes or so if I was doing 3 equidistant shelves. If you want to do that, you can do that. It's quicker, but I just wanted to kind of not waste any space. I just thought it'd be kind of fun to try something a little bit different with this one. So there you have it. I'm gonna leave mine unfinished. Like the rest of my shelves in here are all natural, so I'm leaving it like this. You can always stain it, paint it, what have you. Appreciate you guys joining me. Give it a thumbs up, share this with other people. I know maybe it's a little painful to watch at times because I had a hard time, you know, moving these cameras and keeping them on me and all that stuff. So I apologize for that. But I thought it would be something worth doing for you guys. And if you want to you can fast forward through the video and you can kind of, you know, pick up where I am and see how I did it. So I appreciate you guys joining me. Happy listening, and we're going to see you soon with a lot more reviews coming your way. Happy listening. See you guys.